So what probably everyone had expected to happen did indeed happen. Yesterday, the first playtest for the upcoming Battlefield game was held within the Battlefield Labs environment, and even though beforehand we got some official details to the gunplay and movement that we can expect to see in the new title, it didn't take long for the first actual gameplay to pop up all around the internet. There was even a guy streaming the playtest who obviously couldn't care less about the fact that the whole playtest was under a non-disclosure agreement, so none of the participants was actually allowed to share any footage of the game or talk about what they played. And EA quickly reacted and tried to do some damage control by taking down videos on YouTube. But you know how it is with the internet. Once something's out there, it gets shared in so many ways that it's almost impossible for anyone to get a hold of it. And that's also why there are still countless gameplay clips existing out there, shared on different social media platforms. And to get one thing out of the way right from the start, I will not share any of this footage here in the video or on my channel in general, because I don't want EA to take down my videos as well. But if you know how to find it and how you find this kind of gameplay, you will find it anyway. And if you're active on social media, you have very likely already seen some of the clips, because it's almost impossible to avoid them. So I did watch a lot of the clips and of the gameplay, and while watching them I recognized a few things that I thought were interesting, and they confirmed at least a few of the leaks that we got throughout the last few months, and that they were correct actually. But nevertheless, it's important to keep in mind that this is pre-alpha gameplay, so things might be tested that are not coming to the final version of the game, or they might be tweaked, or hopefully some things will be tweaked based on player feedback, because that's what this whole Battlefield Labs thing is supposedly about. Not to create leaks for us to talk about, but to get actual player feedback and to improve the game and tweak the game upon this. Anyways, what I personally found most impressive, so that's what we're gonna start with, is the destruction. Because there was a scene that I saw on Twitter, I think, where the player fired an RPG into a building, and the effect was indeed the same that we've seen in the short official clip from the Battlefield Labs trailer. And I've also seen someone driving a tank into a building, and it looked pretty similar. And back then when we got this short teaser or these short clips with the Battlefield Labs trailer, I was pretty skeptical about it, because I thought this destruction might be scripted for the trailer and that it's not really likely that it's coming like this to the game. But it does indeed seem to be real, and it seems to be possible like this in game. I'm still a bit skeptical about it, especially when it comes to what it means for the performance of the game and for the available cover. Will you be able to tear down whole buildings like we were in Battlefield 5, for example? Or is it only partial destruction, so you can only destroy a little bit of the map or maybe some of the buildings, and others cannot be destroyed to still provide enough cover? We will see. It definitely looks impressive and what Battlefield should look like, but how much destruction there really is hard to tell from the short gameplay clips that we got. The map itself looked good though, and very atmospheric, and it seems to be the same map that we saw in the teaser gameplay. At least that's what I'm thinking, because it's an urban environment and the architecture looks like it could be set somewhere in the Middle East, and in one clip I'm sure I saw the towers of a mosque in the background. And from the leaks we got before, we know that the teaser gameplay was set in Cairo around a very famous mosque, at least if I remember correctly. But I could be completely wrong about this. The gameplay I've seen was very blurry, so it's hard to tell. But in general, it gave me a good Battlefield 3 and 4 vibes, which is really great. So the setting and atmosphere seem to be there already, and that's good, because that's definitely something that 2042 was lacking. A detail that also caught my attention was the minimap, because it looked like it's in 3D now, which looks kind of cool. Not sure this makes it easier to move around though, but we will see. We've also seen a scoreboard even in the pre-alpha, so that's great as well. And the chat seemed to be very active during this playtest as well, and there were both teams riding, so there were blue names and red names, which I think means that all chat is a feature again, and and seems to be available right from the start this time. So we see the return of the so-called legacy features right from the start and won't have to ask for them over and over again. What I also spotted was a respawn camera in the deploy screen, so what we had in Battlefield 4 and I think also in Battlefield 3, so that you can see what's going on around the person that you're trying to spawn at. And just from the UI or from the deploy overview, it seems like they took this straight out of Battlefield 4 because it looks pretty similar. What doesn't seem to be in the game anymore though is the zoom into the map when spawning. You know, when you click on deploy and then you have this zoom in animation when you're getting zoomed into the map and deployed. Instead there's just a black screen and then the soldier deploys next to the squad mate. I always loved the deploy zoom feature in Battlefield games, not gonna lie, but I guess it's way easier for the soldier to react when there are suddenly enemies coming around the corner when you don't have this zoom in, because I think it takes a lot of time where you can't do anything from pressing deploy to being actually on the map. So I think both of these versions have their advantage and disadvantage, and again I think they took heavy inspiration from Battlefield 4 here and just took this system. And when we're talking Battlefield 4, I also briefly spotted a HUD element that said field spec, but because of the low quality I couldn't read what it means. But if you played Battlefield 4, you might remember the field upgrades we had there, which were like additional perks that could be unlocked through a match by doing squad-based actions. So capturing, reviving and so on, and then over time you unlocked these perks. So maybe field spec is something similar. I've also spotted vehicle supply stations in some of the tank gameplay, so it seems like attrition for vehicles might return, similar to Battlefield 5, which means tanks only have limited ammunition, and if this is used up they need to return to one of these stations to resupply. It's not a bad system and I actually liked it in Battlefield 5, but I know it can also motivate tank players to simply camp next to a station instead of helping their team. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, and at the end of the day it depends on how it balances with the rest of the game. When talking about the soldiers, I found that the movement looks kinda slow, but maybe that's just me, or actually similar to World War III or Battlefield 4. To me it looks like the whole movement and the combat pacing in general is slowed down a bit compared to 2042, because 2042 always felt pretty fast and more Call of Duty-like from its movement and everything, so it seems like this is definitely different in the new Battlefield. I also didn't see anyone using a tactical sprint, so maybe this is out or no one used it, but I haven't seen it in any of the clips. The gunplay looks solid so far, at least from the few gameplay clips that are out there, and the time to kill looks a little bit slower to me compared to 2042. But that's really hard to say because most of the gameplay is just so bad that we're barely seeing any longer gunfights or engagements. And I think in general, gunplay and movement is something you have to feel for yourself, and it's really hard to judge from just a few blurry gameplay clips. But from what we've seen so far, it actually looks alright, and the first impressions of the game are not bad as well. Like I said before, it seems to have a good atmosphere, the sound seems to be alright just from what I noticed, but a few of the clips were without sound, so it's hard to tell as well. And the map gives a first good impression, and it really gives me some modern Battlefield 4 vibes. And I guess that's a good track that they're on right now, and we will see how the game will turn out in the end and with the feedback of the playtesters. And yeah, that was it for today. Tell me what you think about this in the comments below, especially if you've seen the gameplay. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. I'm the Catwoman, and you are awesome.